Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. I hope that you can hear me. If you can hear me, just say hello or drop an emoji. Thank you very much. Wow. First of all, I want to apologize for starting pretty late for this session, right? A lot of technical issues, but we're here and I'm glad that we are here. Oh my God. I apologize for starting this late. We'll just give my guest a few minutes, a few seconds to join and we get started. Okay, I can see Festus, I can see GSD9. Great to have you here. And today is going to be a very, very impactful time and insightful time with my guest as we speak on the man, his pursuit, his strength, and his weakness. And we're going to talk about living a contented and intentional life. So this particular topic is very, very personal to me because um, my experience coaching people has exposed to, yeah, my guest is here now, has exposed me. So just give me a second to add him to the quarrel so that he's a part of all of this. Awesome. 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 Wow. Mr. Damilola, can you hear me? Please let me know that you can. Can you hear me? Okay. So I was saying that this particular topic is very, very personal to me. It took me some days to actually land on this. And of course, many of these expressions that I display here or through this platform is an offshoot of my experience coaching people and understanding human behaviors, or just seeing where people struggle a lot and finding a way to reach as many people as possible. All right. So we're talking about the man, his pursuit, his strength, and his miss. While my guest, of course, is a man and is going to be speaking a lot from his experiences and his personal stories, right? Because this topic is restricted to just men, all right? So, I mean, if you're a woman here or listening to me, of course, you want to know better about a man. One, because you're probably going to have a boy child, um, going to marry, or maybe already married, and all of that. Or it just makes sense. You probably meet them at work. Your boss is a man. One way or the other, you relate well with them. So this is really good for you to know. But I find out that many of the time these principles actually apply across board, right? Okay, I'm just gonna change with my guests. Okay, 1 second, everyone. Yeah. So it's living an intentional and contented life. Okay, right? Yeah. So, Mr. Damilola, if you can hear me, I think you might log out and come back in because we can't actually see you right now. So please just you could probably Okay, let me take out from the stream and then you join back in. Thank you. Okay. All right, guys. So we're talking about living and a contented life, right? What comes to your mind when you think about being contented and being intentional? It's really in your everyday choices. It's in the value system. All right. So I'm going to speak a bit on value systems, and then before we get into Mr. Damilola's experiences and his stories and all the gems that he has to share with us. Right now, what one is your decision, and then your value systems, your decisions, your everyday decisions. Actually, we are a sum of all the decisions that some of them are decisions beyond our control, right? For example, probably the kind of secondary school you went to, you are born in Nigeria, it's not your fault. Yes, we can see you now, Mr. Damilola. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud here. Thank you very much. So we just get started. Right. Again, I want to apologize to you as well for the technical glitches that we experienced so far. Right now, we're on IG and like on YouTube as well. For the purpose of those that are probably listening to me for the first time, this make sense 8.0. I have this monthly IG live sessions. Yes, of course, once a month, and I've used it as a platform or as a channel to um, leverage my network, literally, to sort of a gap that I see might be occurring in the people without them even knowing. This might be as a result of the advancement of technology or just the age, the digital age that we're in, and the kind of exposures that people are like they are feeding from with that unconsciously, right, every day for media, whether they like it or not, except you're not on Instagram. Or if you're on Instagram, that's why you can hear me right now. Or maybe you're on YouTube, so you just stumble on, and many people don't even have internal filters to help them be able to distinguish what is beneficial or what is not. All right. So this might as well be one of those in quote positive contents that people will stumble on. That's the goal. You close that gap. All right. So I'm excited to welcome Mr. Damilola Emmanuel today on the show. It took me a couple of one or two months, right, to eventually secure this appointment, but I did not take it for granted. And I know he's a very, very busy man, right? And already we spent 1 hour trying to sort ourselves out, but I don't take that for granted. I will also try as much as possible to respect your time so that we don't drag this too long. All right. So just before you join, we can all start that conversation with that. I was talking about what does it take to live a contented and an intentional life, and I was talking about two things. One is your value system, and then number two, your decisions. Your decisions were actually a sum total of our everyday decisions. No matter how much you pray for the future to be great, for what the next 5 years is going to look like, for the next 10 years is going to look like, if your everyday decision is not culminating into that, there's so much that you can expect from the future. The future can actually be quite predictable. You may not know exactly what the destination is like, but you'll be entering into the journey very conscious because you are intentional with the decisions that you're making. And number two is your value system. Your value system. This is so important. Many people, what I've seen again, what made me come up with this topic is my experience coaching with people and understanding more about human behaviors. I've seen how there are a lot of gaps in the perspectives that people have about themselves and the expectation of the society or the different roles that they play. For example, as a man, right? Of course, the expectation when you're a boy is different. You're a child, you're a boy child, is different. Expectation is standard. It's already available in society. You can't try to fight it, right? as to what is expected from a boy child and a girl child. And then you advance from that, and you are a husband, you're a father, you are a colleague at work, you are a boss, and different roles, right, that you play, and there are different expectations along each of those roles from different people. Now, one of the things that a lot will change about us, we advance into different roles that we play, whether with the society or with our direct families, or maybe even ourselves. Some of the things that may not really experience a lot of changes would be things, intangible things like our value system. And that's why it's really called that. If you're listening to me right now, you've never really searched within to know what is my value system. What is this value system we talk about? What are my intrinsic values? What are my extrinsic values, right? Um, it's a very important assignment or some task that you have to go ahead and, because your value system will determine each of your decisions, the kind of friends you make, the kind of relationship, the kind of network you want to keep, the kind of job you get, everything. If you do not have a value system, somehow the society will create one for you. And that's where you have the extrinsic value. Now, when people's value system sits more outside than it is, then you see that they have more weight of extrinsic value, right? Rather than that which is coming from within them. Okay. So, but I don't want to do all the talking today because I have my guest here. The goal here, of course, is to get into his experiences, um, because experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be our own experience. You can learn from people that have gone ahead of us. So, yes, we're going to our topic right now. The man is pursued his strengths and his weaknesses. So, I'll take it back to how I always start with each of my guests. Mr. Damilola, if you were to sit your 18-year-old adult self, let me what I want to say, 18-year-old, yeah, a teenager, yeah, teenage self down, and you were going to speak to him about your strength and your weakness. This is him now, right? This is you, rather. And at that point, you're telling him about his strengths and his weakness, but you're also speaking from the future, right? What are those things that you're going to say to him, and his pursuits, his values as at that time, what he imagined? Half of us back then want to be either doctors, lawyers, all those kind of things that our parents wanted us to be, engineers, right? But if you were to sit him down today, now that is like at least 20 years ahead, right? What are those things that you're going to say to him? Yes, so over to you. So
Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be here with you, KSA. I don't know if you can hear me loud and clear, yeah. So, well, thank you so much for having me on. You've spoken about a real topic. I think it's important where we are right now in the Nigeria we live on. And if I were to speak to myself, my 18-year-old self, it would be listen to your parents. When our parents were advising us in those days, it just seemed like, can they spare me? Like, let me go through my own experiences. But I think age allowed them to speak a lot of wisdom to us at that point in time. And like they tend to say, what the elders are able to see, the children are not able to see. Because obviously they have, I would say, hindsight, and they have, should I say, even oversight over a lot of things. So if I were to sit down, my 18-year-old self would be, make sure you listen to your parents. And one word that I would say that has continued to chase me around in life is process. Wait the process. Don't jump the process. We live in a generation now what it's called the microwave generation. Everybody wants it to happen now. But these things don't happen now. You have to go through process. There's something that the process teaches you that you can never, ever, ever, ever learn if you jump or boycott the process. So another thing I'll say to my 18-year-old self is be ready to go through the process. Be ready to go through the. So for me, two things will be listen to your parents. Secondly, will be ready to go through the process in whatever sector you're in, on wherever you find yourself in life. I mean, you can't enter secondary school today and want to get to SS3 the next day. It's not possible. You're going to go through GS1, GS2, GS3, SS1, SS2, and that is the way life is as well. Be ready to go through the process, because in the process, you will learn a lot, and in the process, you will be ready, matured, and lacking nothing when you finally reach that destination of that particular phase of your life. Thank you.
Awesome, right? I like that you talked about be ready to go through the process. Somebody referred to, permit me to say our generation, but of course, our generation, not our generation, but generation as microwave generation, where you just want things to happen right now. But if you look at it, we probably do not blame them exactly, because these are the things that they have direct access to. Somebody was speaking that back then, 20 years ago, even if your best friend is doing very well, you probably won't know until you go to their houses or you go and visit. But right now, with the internet, you're seeing updates of people just doing well. They're doing well, not which may not even be what the reality is like for them in actual fact, because everybody will present their best foot forward in the media. But these are true live challenges here, because I've encountered a few people that had suicidal tendency. In fact, there was a young girl that had attempted suicide. It was at third time, right? And when I tried to find out what the trigger was, she said that her friends are really doing well. Her friends are really doing well in life, but she seems to be behind. I said, "How did you know?" She said, "Oh, she sees their post on Instagram." All right. And I said, "Wow." Of course, at that point, I had to validate how she was feeling right there. But in my mind, I said, "What? How could one want to actually commit suicide based on that?" Until I met a second person and a third person, right? We have not fully explored the extent of the damage social media does to each one of us, especially in the digital age, especially and for those that do not have a strong backing, either a spiritual backing or a filter, an internal filter system. But I'll put it aside. Yes, you've said something. Listen to your parents. Listen to your parents. Number two is things actually take process, follow the process. Let's talk about the struggles in between 18 and now. And of course, in there, you're looking at your 5-year-old self, your 30-year-old self, and just going into that process that you have just said. Now, the struggles, real struggles that you actually did experience, and something that maybe if you had an opportunity, you would do it differently this time around. All right.
Hmm. Ah, you know. Um, well, the struggles, of course, had to do with making decisions. I think that's the number one struggle, making decisions. And these are decisions that you know that might alter your life forever. Um, so you always struggle with making the right decisions. Even you know it's right, right? But then you think of the consequences. And if you're not a risk taker, you would not want to make certain decisions because you're wondering, if I do this, am I ready for the consequences? So I would say I struggled with making decisions, even when they were good decisions, but because of the consequences of what was going to follow those decisions. Another struggle you had, of course, like you mentioned, will always be peer pressure. A lot of people say I'm not moved by peer pressure, but you look at your friends, look at where everyone is, But when you have the right people around you, I think no matter what your struggles are, especially as men, I think we don't really speak up. as men. We tend to bottle things, and we don't really speak until one day we explode, and they're like, the woman will have poured out her heart and told everything, But men keep everything inside and will not really want to talk. And I think we live in a society that men don't talk, and it's very wrong. And mental issues, I even think, are more in men, if we were to really tell ourselves the truth, than in women, because a lot of men don't talk, and a lot of men are going through a lot of things. And it's important that we speak and we talk, because when we talk, it releases all those things that are inside you, that will limit you from being your very full self. Because whether you like it or not, as long as you're not talking to someone about it, find that one person whom you can trust, whom you can listen to. So, of course, you struggle with making decisions. You struggle with, being able to open up, and you should open up. You always struggle with peer pressure, and of course, you also struggle because you are looking at yourself and saying, by now I should be financially here. So the struggles are there, as well as finances, because you want to be able to take care of yourself. You believe by now you should have this, have that, what society tries to determine for you, which is why I think also your background is very important, so that, because society will begin to tell you, oh, by now you should have this, by now you should have that, by now you should do this, and if you look at many people's lives, they didn't necessarily follow that order. But society, like you said, has a way of framing, your culture system and your values for you if you don't have those values. So, of course, the struggle with, financially as well, and how is that happening is also important. So I would say those were my struggles.
Wow. Wow. Would you say that you were born with a silver?
No. I mean, yeah, well, okay, what's between silver and bronze?
Okay, somewhere in between silvers.
Okay, let's say
What was your childhood like? Like, what was your childhood?
let's say that the starting point is a gold spoon, right? Let's even know. I don't know how they pick silver when gold is more than silver. I say silver spoon. They must have their reasons anyway, whoever came up with it. But let's even say started with a gold spoon. So I would say I was born with a silver spoon, if gold is the grade. So I was born with a silver spoon, which was relatively very comfortable. Thank God for my father, who was a judge. My mom was a businesswoman as well. But yeah, so comfortable. We even lived in Ikoyi, because judges at that point in time were giving houses in Ikoyi, and you'll be amazed at what they've turned the Ikoyi house I used to live in years ago, what they've turned it into. You probably would not even recognize it anyway. But yeah, so yes, I would say relatively I was born in a very comfortable home. And growing up was quite good. I went to Corona Primary School, Victoria Island. So definitely I'll say I was born with, if you call it a silver spoon, yeah, well, yes, I was born with a silver spoon.
Okay. Yeah. That's that is understandable. All right. So now tell me about, I mean, I get the point that you raised in terms of um in terms of what's it called? Your friends, the kind of networks that you have around you. These are decisions that are really key and that could influence how your life actually turns out, and especially just having those set of people that you can open up to, which makes a lot of sense, right? Did you experience that phase where you were led astray even by a friend, maybe a trusted friend? That's one. Number two, scenarios where you actually felt betrayed or were betrayed by a friend and it almost cost you um a lot in life. Yeah.
Well, not exactly any of those two examples, but definitely, of course, I've heard stories. And one of the things for me, I'm very quick to learn from people's experiences. Like I don't wait till experience something. I want to learn from people's experiences. So, a lot of people look out for people's glory and like, that person is now doing this. Now, no, for me, I'm always interested in your story. I always will go for the story. I want to know, how were you able to get to where you are? Not interested in how you've gotten to. I mean, where you are now is good, but tell me, what were the struggles? What were, like you mentioned, what are the things that you had to give up and do, and the sacrifices? What do you have to go through? Like they always say, there's always a story behind every glory, right? I want to know the story. So I'm going back to emphasize that I'm always more interested in people's stories than their glories. So I didn't necessarily have any friend who misled me but I learned from people's experiences, and I've seen what that could do sometimes. So I've never been one who always relied on what my friends said, because I believed I had my parents, and I also had mentors to guide me. So I was very careful, even though yes, I had friendships, but definitely not being swayed or influenced by them. Yeah.
So you never had a situation where a friend was a terribly bad decision, right? Like betrayed you or something. Did you have did you really experience struggles?
Mm. So, well, like I said, the struggle of looking at those who are doing better than you and thinking, I can be doing this good as well, or looking at yourself at that point in time. Let me give an example. So, when I went to school, when I went to university, Unilag, and most of the people who I was close to at that point in time were all going for their master's program. It was the thing. Once you finish schools, master's was the next thing. Well, my parents couldn't afford it at that point in time. And to be honest, there was no way I was going to stress them, because I had to understand, And for me, it was a struggle, because I felt bad. I felt like, why can't I do this? Why isn't this happening for me? But as God will have it, I started working. I worked a few years, and eventually I went for a master's. And when I went for the master's, it was far better than I would have if I did it at the time at which I was meant to do it. I know that I will not be probably where I am today if I had done it at that point in time. Just to keep it short, right? Because when I eventually went for the master's, not only did I even do a master's, I did an MBA, which is obviously a higher level to just a basic master's, right? I did an MBA and finished with a distinction. This was about 7 years later, when I could have, or when I should have done the master's. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay, now let's take it back. I have someone drop a comment about how societal expectations can be. Let me just read that comment, right? From Festus. Societal expectation is very dangerous as far as I'm concerned. And I actually agree with that. The expectation, let's try to focus a bit on men now. From a man, some people are like maybe more or better privileged than others, right? Because imagine that you're born into a home where your father experienced enough to protect you from the society. But in a case, let's take that out of, in a case where you didn't have such system, no one could have actually protected you from society, right? For any reason whatsoever. Now you've found yourself with the wrong network. You've made a couple of wrong decisions. And yes, well, right now I'm now 35 as a man. I'm 30, I'm not married, or let's say I'm 35, I'm 40, I'm not married. Um, I'm just comfortable at work, and when it comes to income. How do I really manage that pressure? And I mean, yeah, before I come back to contention, right? How do I manage that pressure? How do I?
Can you ever manage pressure? Well, I think you can, to be honest. But before you talk about managing pressure, let's take it back to who are you as a person? Who are you? You spoke about our background, our value system. You spoke about our value system, our culture, the things that make us who we are. So the truth about it is that, look, you can't give what you don't have. So I don't think you'll be able to cope with the pressure if you haven't already been grounded in
Define.
if you've not already been grounded, in being able to deal with tough situations. because that's what pressure is. Pressure is going to be a tough situation, an unpleasant circumstance. You know, right now I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I keep thinking, if you keep giving them everything they have, everything they want, every time they ask you, you're not teaching them real life, because that's not the way life is. You have to be able to teach them that sometimes you'll not get what you want. Just because you're going to cry or throw a tantrum doesn't mean you get it. And that's the way life is, and they must understand it. And when, you know, this is the day and age where our children, the minute they ask us, we want to just give them something. No, some people will say, what I went through, my children must not go through it. You know what I mean? And people say things like that, which I understand. But we should always also remember the reason why we are how we are today is because of some of the things we went through. When your parents told you we couldn't afford this thing, and you went through the pains and it was difficult, but you now eventually got it later, you had a better appreciation for it. And I'm not trying to say, well, getting good things is a bad thing. But remember, so going back to your question is, to deal with that pressure, you must have been grounded in being able to understand that, look, in life, you will go through pressures. In life, you will be challenged. In life, things will come your way that you cannot control. You can't control everything, right? So when you have already been grounded in that way, when the pressure comes up, it will not be new to you. Now, the pressures come up in various degrees. Definitely, I believe that life, you have different tests. And I believe that sometimes, if you don't pass stage 1, you will still go back and repeat the class before you get to stage 2. Yeah.
Wow. Those are really, really powerful statements there. And I mean, just to reiterate, for the purpose of emphasis, right? How it's important. I mean, that's also going back to what you said about process, right? There's a process, right? Even God had to send powerful enough to have sent as a mature man, but he made him go through the process. He made him still come through that phase of being born as a child and experience literally the phase it was. And guess what? Even right from when he was probably 10, 15, teenager and thereabouts, he knew that it was the Son of God. Yet he had to wait for the appointed time, right? Process. So you can't jump processes. And I like the analogy you also gave about your kids and how you let them know that just because you want something doesn't mean you should throw tantrums and you're going to get it, because that's not how life is. And that is speaking to reality of life. And without people also knowing it, many of us are really far moving away from reality, right? Again, there is the digital pressure. Let's even forget about societal pressure. 10 years ago, there about 15, you would talk a lot about societal pressure. Now I would say that, well, digital pressure is huge, it's enormous. And because of this, people just want to be able to appear in certain ways on media, if at all.
Yep.
Some that are also avoiding, they are not avoiding because of very healthy reason. It's because they're like, what is it about my own life that I want to be putting out there? What gives me the confidence to want to express myself and things like that, right? So people are far from reality. So I take 10 pictures now. 7 of them are really pretty, 3 of them are not. I would want to post the best pictures, right? So that I can get likes. And if I post a picture and then it gets a lot of attention or people like it, then I want to post other pictures that look like that. Even though at that point in time, my life might be far from that person, in quotes, that the digital world expects it to be, right? So I will post my best pictures, right? So you find that let me be a little bit vulnerable here. I had an issue with a friend said, okay, you have not been reaching out to me, and I see your post on Instagram. I know you're doing well. Because I see your post on Instagram. I know you're doing well. That you have not been calling me. And for some reason, I felt like it really hurt me, because I'm like, okay, the fact that you see my post on Instagram does not mean that I'm completely fine. So people have been, if you felt like we've not spoken in a while, then why didn't you just pick up the phone and reach out to me? why do you think much with me because I'm posting on Instagram and you are not, and you can see that I'm doing fine? But again, that's not to digress from the topic. I just wanted to emphasize the place where you being intentional about teaching your children about what life is and what reality is, and it starts from now. When they are kids, you don't always get what you want. Number two is which is just an other layer I wanted to add to that. This thing, let's dissociate ourselves from that digital pressure where you want to appear in some sort of way to meet certain expectations that might be far from your current reality. See, it's okay to not be on Instagram. It's okay to not be on social media. It's okay. It's not, if you can't, if you see that it's doing more harm to you than good, right? It's okay to not have a presence. It's okay to not be a celebrity. It's okay not to have 100,000 followers yet. It's okay not to have 1 million followers yet. Please, some people will check their followership every day just to see how many people have followed me and things like that. So it's many of those things are okay, and that brings me to the next phase of this conversation, which is on living an intentional and contented life. I wish I could put in words how person is to me, right? Just if it was possible for me to open people's minds and just infuse it in there, right? On how you can be contented. You can be contented with where you are. You don't need to be a rich auntie to be. I'm sorry to introduce that, but you can be content. You can live a life that is truly happy and joyous and contented, and it's not really about the wealth you have accumulated for yourself, right? It's not about that. There are some very intangible things that are so valuable that we don't put a lot of light on, and the tendency is that we emphasize the things that are important over the things that are necessary. Is it important for you to go on vacation to the Bahamas, or to go for your honeymoon at in what's this place called in Kenya, right? Fine, but if you can't, what is necessary in this moment to you? What is absolutely necessary in this moment to you, right? And not being able to substitute what is necessary with what is important. It's important for you to have accumulate wealth and have a lot of things working for you and all of that. But what is necessary at this point in time, it must not be substituted with what is important. There are two different things, because what is necessary is definitely important, but what is important is not always necessary. And just being able to separate that is a lot of freedom for many people where this life of contentment is concerned. What is necessary and what is important for me right now. But I'm coming back to you right now and just talking to you about, or you speaking to us on living an intentional and a contented life. Let's talk about the benefit from your own perspective. Let's even start with what it is in your perspective and the benefits of living such a life, and if it's actually possible to live a life of contentment.
Thank you so much for this, Kemi. Well, right now, if you're in Nigeria and you're not ready to live a contented life, then you're already in trouble. And it's all good. They say the economy is, we can understand that, right? But I guess even the economy right now is teaching people to live within their means. If there's anything that the economy is teaching right now, is just live within your means, right now. So already you're even being constrained right now to live. But I mean, it goes without saying, it's almost like a no-brainer that we ought to live contented lives in terms of just live based on what you can afford, because you don't spend time. I mean, this is the day and age where we have a lot of mental health issues, right? Sleep, you need to be able to sleep easy. Sleep is such an important thing in the life of any individual, right? And if you are not a contented person, you will not be sleeping properly. right? Because you will always be thinking, oh, I've not gotten this. This hasn't been done. I still need to do this. And you cut short your sleep. Meanwhile, you're even reducing your life by not even sleeping properly. So it goes without saying that you need to set about, first of all, that look, I need to be content. You said something about, where are you right now? So the question is, ask yourself, where am I right now? What am I doing right now? And I just love the whole idea of whatever your hands find to do. The Bible talks about it, that whatever your hands find to do it and do it well. Everyone whom we know today, successful, whether you call them worldly or whatever you want, whatever category, how you want to class them as, whatever it is that they were doing at different points in time, they did it excellently well. That's why they are where they are today. They took that thing that they had and were doing it excellently well. So where are you right now, right? And what should you be doing properly? Which now takes me to beyond, moving from when you spoke about contentment to being intentional. When I, as you said it, what I just thought about was, live every day like it's your last. And I had this weird thought. So I traveled recently. I was away, and I kept thinking, isn't it weird that you when you travel sometimes, or even in Nigeria, you will meet some people that you will never ever see in your life again. Let me give an example. The taxi man who drove you. What are the odds that you see that taxi man again? And did you think about the fact that this person has met you for a reason? Do you live your life like that? Whether you're a Christian or a Muslim, do you think that there's something you ought to impact in that person's life? Maybe it's just a good word. Maybe it's even finding out something. You don't know what it is. What even that person has to give you. So when I think about living intentionally, for me, it's related to people. It's related to how do you view the people that you meet on a daily basis, and how are you interacting with the people that you are meeting on a daily basis. So for me, living intentionally is, I would say, living intentionally is all about interacting on a daily basis with the people you are meeting, not forgoing or not forgetting that you might never ever in your life see these people again. So for me, when I think about living intentionally, it's about interacting with people on a daily basis and ensuring that you leave something, an impression, a word, whatever it is that you may have for who have finances, to help people, is that you must affect people's life on a daily basis. That for me, I would say, is living intentionally. And of course, in terms of living contented, live within your means. And the good thing, like I said, the current Nigeria living in will teach you. You must live within your means now. If not, you put yourself in some serious trouble. Thank you.
I'm muted, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, sorry. I love what you said about the intentionality around the kind of people that you meet every day and how you interact with people. And that's really what the emphasis very, and that's how I see it. Um I feel like one of the quotes that I say is this, that people are like countries that you explore. They are like beautiful cities that you could actually explore. So if you have never left the shores of Nigeria, for example, and you desire to travel the world and things like that, how are you even being faithful in the little that you have in the current geography that you find yourself in terms of how you engage people? Because, for example, you may, for example, if you've gone to London and now you're telling me about London based off our relationship, right? I actually have the privilege to, because that's how powerful our minds can be when it comes to engagement. But I see that many times people are not actually present. They are there, but they are not present in conversations, in rooms, in places, even in church, in quotes, for example, right? They're not actually present, so they can't get the most out of it. But ideally, if I'm meeting somebody that has traveled the world, has been to London, and is telling about London, yes, I know and understand that it cannot be like if I'm there physically, but I could actually experience London through the lens of that person if I'm actually present in that um, conversation. And that's what, of course, led me to come up with that quote. You know, people are like countries that you experience, and they are like beautiful cities that you can explore. So, in the little that you have in your everyday engagement, let's even start from intentionality on from that place, right? How do you really engage with people? How do you, you know, relate with people, really, right? And it goes a long way to how your life is going to turn around. I have sort of like a mentee who is quite young, but today he has this oil business. Literally, he got a contract with a very big oil company in Nigeria, and now he has what's it called, filling stations, right, built by him and all that. And this is in the space of 1 year. But when he shared the testimony with me, I was like, wow, the driver of the owner of the oil company was the person that knew him. The driver of the person, maybe the driver has been working for the man for 25 years. And the driver, he engaged the driver for some reason. And somehow, on the table when the man needed to make a decision, he recommended him for it. Right. And that was it. His story changed in 1 year. Engage conversation, the power of networks and relationships again. But then, before we come into that, you see, I see that some people are not actually capable of being present. I want us to speak on that. They are not capable of being present, and being able to engage people like that. Not because they don't want to, like you said, when you travel and the Uber rider and something like that. It's just because emptiness on the inside. There's a gap on the inside. There is a gap of who they really are and how they are supposed to present themselves to the world. Some people are already done that they are in America and a white man is the Uber driver. They are thinking a white man is driving. The kind of thing that they are processing in that moment will not even give the room to engage freely or from a free mind in the that conversation should be meaningful, right? So it might actually also come from not knowing how, because they don't really know who they are. They've not come to embrace the totality of their person and their presence, which is summed into our identity, right? So there's a gap in there, and I'd like you to just speak on that. I know you started earlier by saying that, see, if you don't know yourself or you don't, in terms of your background, those things, but let's really talk about right now. People are not just in that capacity, in that place where they can have meaningful conversations or give their best self every day. What's going to be your advice to them?
Well, people make the world go round, right? And this goes to your interpersonal skills. And to be honest, not everybody has great interpersonal skills. So another thing, and this brings me to the critical question, is that when you do a critical assessment of yourself, right, what are your weaknesses? And what are the areas you need to work on? If you don't have great interpersonal skills, you need to go develop great interpersonal skills. You need to do courses on interpersonal skills. You need to meet people who are good with interpersonal skills. And you identify that area and you work on it. Because a lot of the times, the reason why we're not able to get to the next level is because we're not ready to do the things that want to take us to the next level. So identify your gaps. Identify what are the issues that you currently have. And there's so many resources these days. Thank God that there are free online courses. There's so much. We have no excuse anymore. Technology has brought everything so much closer to us. So my own is that, look, the gap exists because you as well have not also done an assessment of yourself to say, okay, yes, people, you must. You need people. You need people for whatever's going to happen. Ask anyone who's done anything. You need people. No man island. No man is an island. Okay, just imagine if you're doing this show on your own, Kemi, today, KSA, if you're doing this show on your own. You can do it on your own and speak. Well, there's a reason why you and I are speaking, because in both of us speaking, there's a lot that we're learning. A lot of people, that those who are listening as well, are learning from both of us. And that is why you have this. You could as well just call it your own show and decide to begin to speak. But your own experiences will still be limited. My own experiences will now bring in a different mix into your own experiences. And then we have a blended mix of what people can get from. So you need people. And if you notice that you're not a people's person, it's also okay. Not everyone has the grace, or everyone has the skill to be able to network and always be there. But we've learned through all these business seminars things that the power of networking is so important. The power of networking is so important. You must be able to network. So if it's a gap you have, then you must find a way to work on that area. And as you work on that area, it will help you solve the gap. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. You know, I've already promised that I wasn't going to take so much of your time because we already started a bit late. But usually we do 1.5 hours. But we look at how we can manage this in an hour. All right. So you already talked about a bit on weaknesses, people's weaknesses now. The rest of this time, I want you to speak to us on the role of fatherhood and being a husband and being able to balance that with having a life outside of that system. I mean, you currently work, you're a professional as well, you are a teacher, a servant of God, and all of that. How are you able to balance these roles, right, that you actually play in?
Well, the question you should have said, how are you still balancing? Not how are you able to balance, because I don't think you ever get to that point. Because let me just tell you the honest truth, right? You are still learning how to balance everything or not. You know, because now I was saying someone that I don't think 24 hours even seems enough anymore, because you know there's so much you're trying to do. But yeah, but I mean, you know, to be honest, the truth about it is that, look, one of the things that has helped me is that I've tried not to separate them. I've tried to not to separate them, and very intentionally. Who I am here is who I am there. Who I am there is who I am here. And it's all about understanding that you are the same person. However, you just have different roles to play at every point in time. Because just imagine if I'm a nasty husband, but I'm a great boss at work. No. The boss that I am at work, being kind to colleagues. In fact, the home is the very first place. So I would say, in terms of how you look at how you balance on this thing, the first place is your home. Because without all those, whether church, whether your work, or whatever it is you're doing, if those things don't exist today, where's the one place you're going to end up? It's home. So the home is the very first place where it all starts from. I mean, there's that saying of charity starts at home. So the balance will start from who you are in the home. Because when you leave, you're going back there again. So when you are the person who you should be at home, playing the role you should be at home, prioritizing your home, then you will also be able to prioritize. So this morning now, because I knew I had this live, and of course, like you said, yes, we are trying to shorten the time so that, you know, other things can happen, is that my help is not around, for example, this weekend, so I'm babysitting. And my wife's business is more busy on the weekends than the weekday. So this morning, while she went really early, I had to stay home, bath the kids, because the help is not available this weekend, stay with the kids, then drop them off, do other things I had to do, and be on this live, and I'm still going back to meet them because my wife is still not done. So I prioritize my home while at the same time ensuring that other areas do not suffer. But other areas must also understand that you also have constraints. And you must always remember that at the end of the day, it's all about responsibility. It's all about responsibility. Love that. Yeah, how responsible are you as a man? How responsible are you as a father? How responsible are you as servants of God? How responsible are you as a public servant? Responsibility.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness, I feel so bad that we are short of time because you see that thing you just mentioned now, being responsible. That's a topic on its own, right?
It
And
is.
I feel that some men want to run away from this, and because of that, they embrace vices in quotes. Let me call it that, because they don't want to hear that part of, hey, you
Yeah.
need to actually take responsibility.
We we
How
we
responsible, and I like that you specified how responsible as a father, how responsible are you as a husband, how responsible are you as a public servant, how responsible are you? And I think it's a good thing to leave in the minds of our listeners today, right? And a question for you to brood on, if you're listening to us right now, about taking responsibility. And this also still comes down to what our topic talks about, which is intentionality, living an intentional life. Responsibility requires intentionality. But it first comes a place of knowledge. What are those things that I am supposed to actually be doing? And how can I take more or better responsibility in those regards? All right. We're absolutely short of time, and I just want to use this privilege once again to appreciate you. We're definitely going to do this again, and I'm sure
yeah.
it's going to be on that.
I thought about it as well. In fact, I have the topic already. Responsible. How can you be
I'm
responsible?
telling you, we have to do this again because when you introduce that stuff, I'm like, whoa. That's something to talk about, right? And of course, in better condition. I apologize for the technical glitches that we experienced earlier, and apologies to the listeners as well. This is about the time we close usually because we start at 5, so it's always like 1.5 hours, 2 hours thereabout. But it was really a good time. Yeah, you gave us a topic already, which is how responsible are you? So I want to thank you again, my regards to your lovely kids, so that you can go back to babysit, and my regards to your wife as well for
Thank you.
releasing you. Thank you all so much for listening and being a part of this. Please watch out for the topic that we'll be talking about responsibility. Very, very key. All right, then. Do enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. I'll give you a call shortly. All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Yes.